Did you know that Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations trying to build a legacy, start a movement, or sound wise for future generations? He wrote it because he was trapped in the most dangerous job on earth, and he knew exactly what that job does to people. In the year 161 AD, Marcus became the most powerful man in the Roman world, the kind of power where nobody tells you no, nobody corrects you, and every bad habit can turn into a lifestyle overnight. And history had already proven what happens next. Emperors don't usually become better human beings. They become disasters with crowns. So Marcus did something strange. Instead of trusting the palace, the praise, or the comfort, he started writing to himself like his own mind was the enemy. Short lines, harsh reminders, private warnings. All about how to control himself. And the wild part is, those pages survived. Which makes you wonder, what exactly was Marcus fighting every night in that journal? And why do his words still hit like they were written for the pressure you're dealing with right now? Well, lock in as we dive right into a story. Marcus Aurelius grew up in the heart of Roman power, surrounded by status, politics, and the kind of luxury that can melt a person's brain if they're not careful. Even as a young man, people noticed he wasn't built like the typical Roman elite. He didn't chase attention. He wasn't loud, reckless, or addicted to being admired. Ancient writers described him as serious, disciplined, and deeply drawn to philosophy early on. And that mindset shaped everything about his reign, because he didn't treat power like a prize. He treated it like a responsibility that could corrupt you if you got too lazy for even a second. When he became emperor in 161 AD, Rome was enormous. 3 continents, massive armies, a government that could change lives with a single signature. And Marcus understood how dangerous that kind of authority was, because Rome had already seen what happens when emperors start thinking they're the main character in every story. The scary part was that he feared himself. The possibility of becoming the kind of man who starts excusing anything because he can. He also didn't rule alone at first. He shared power with Lucius Verus, a co-emperor arrangement set up by Antoninus Pius. It looked stable on paper. In real life, the pressure arrived immediately. War broke out against Parthia in the east. Then conflict erupted along the northern frontier against Germanic tribes near the Danube. While all that was happening, a devastating epidemic swept through the empire, the Antonine Plague, killing huge numbers of people and shaking Roman society from top to bottom. So the famous philosopher king wasn't living some peaceful library life. He was running a collapsing schedule of invasions, death counts, military discipline, and political expectations, while everyone around him wanted something. And that's where Meditations starts to make sense. Marcus was now writing as life was heavy. He needed a private space to remind himself what kind of man he was supposed to be when everything around him encouraged the opposite. When anger felt justified, when fear was useful, when comfort was unlimited. Meditations reads less like a book and more like a man grabbing himself by the collar and saying, "Stay decent, stay sharp, don't slip." The most interesting part is that he never planned to publish anything. He wasn't trying to inspire future generations. He wrote it as if nobody would ever see it. No audience, no applause, no reputation management, just a Roman emperor talking to himself in short bursts, like mental training reps. The title Meditations wasn't even his. It originally had no official name. After his death in 180 AD, these private notes survived, were copied, and eventually became one of the most famous philosophical works in history. Once you realize Meditations was never meant to be read by anyone, the next part hits even harder. If you read Meditations long enough, one truth keeps showing up like a warning label. Most of life is not yours to command. Marcus Aurelius had an empire under his name, armies under his authority, and wealth beyond imagination. Even with all of that, he kept reminding himself that control is a limited resource, and most people waste it chasing the wrong things. Marcus draws a hard line between what belongs to you and what never will. Other people's opinions don't belong to you. The future doesn't belong to you. Accidents, illness, betrayal, politics, bad weather, war, even death itself. None of that waits for approval. He had seen this up close. He could sign orders, move legions across continents, and still wake up to news that something had gone wrong anyway. So, what did he say was truly yours? Your mind, your judgment, your response. That's the foundation of Stoic thinking, and Marcus treated it like a survival skill. In meditations, he keeps returning to the same idea. Events happen outside you, but your interpretation happens inside you. Life throws something at you and your mind decides whether it becomes panic, anger, shame, or focus. That decision is fast and almost invisible, which is why Marcus trained himself to slow it down and take control. He was building a tool for stressful moments. When something hit hard, the goal was to separate facts from fear, then act with clarity instead of emotion. He even warns himself about emotional drama, the habit of turning a problem into a catastrophe. Pain can be real. Difficulty can be real. The extra suffering often comes from the story you attach it to. That's why he keeps hammering one message. You don't choose what happens, and you do choose what kind of person meets it. For him, this was leadership. If the emperor panicked, the empire shook. If the emperor stayed steady, Rome stayed steady. So he trained his thoughts like a weapon, because in his world, a weak mind could ruin everything. So, how did he deal with annoying people without losing his soul? Marcus didn't need anyone to tell him that people can be exhausting. He ruled an empire where every conversation came with an agenda. Senators wanted influence, generals wanted resources, courtiers wanted favors, citizens wanted answers. Enemies wanted weakness, even allies would become a headache overnight. Marcus learned a simple truth early. Power attracts noise, and the noise never stops. That's why one of the most practical parts of meditations is how often he prepares himself for human behavior before the day even begins. In one of his most famous entries, he tells himself to expect difficult people. The ungrateful, the arrogant, the dishonest, the jealous, the rude. This isn't him being bitter. It's mental preparation. He's reminding himself that frustration usually comes from expecting the world to send you someone different. He also refuses to treat bad people like monsters. He returns again and again to the idea that many people act wrongfully out of ignorance. They chase the wrong rewards. They react without thinking. That doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it changes how you respond. He wanted discipline, not drama. Then he turns the focus inward. Before judging anyone else, he reminds himself that he has flaws too. Maybe not the same flaws, maybe not even the same form, but still flaws. That thought keeps him humble, and it stops irritation from turning into cruelty. For him, the goal stays simple. Don't let someone else's behavior steal your character. They can insult you, lie to you, disrespect you, even betray you, and you still stay rational, decent, and in control. This is where he becomes more than a philosopher. He becomes a leader trying to stay human. Because the easiest thing in the world when you're surrounded by difficult people is to harden into someone cold. He kept choosing something harder. He kept choosing restraint. And that same restraint became Marcus's survival tool when life itself started hitting him like a siege engine. Meditations reads like it was written with dust on the page and exhaustion in the ink. Marcus spent years away from the comfort of Rome, moving between military camps and frontier towns while the empire dealt with crisis after crisis. Much of his reign was shaped by war along the northern borders, especially during the long struggle known as the Marcomannic Wars, fought near the Danube against multiple tribes pressing into Roman territory. And while those campaigns dragged on, Rome faced another enemy that didn't care about strategy or rank: the Antonine Plague. It spread across the empire during his rule and killed huge numbers of people. Ancient sources describe a wave of death that shook society and weakened stability. He even lived in a world where disaster didn't arrive as a rare event. It showed up like a reoccurring appointment. That pressure is stamped into his writing. He doesn't beg for life to get easier. He trains himself to meet hardship with discipline. Over and over, he returns to the idea that pain is part of being human, and fighting reality only adds extra suffering on top. Endurance, for him, isn't a dramatic performance. It's a basic duty. One of his clearest lessons is that your response matters more than the hardship itself. If he panicked, the damage spread beyond him. So he practiced steadiness like a daily habit. Do the work in front of you. Avoid spiraling into complaint. Stay sharp enough to act correctly even when you're running on fumes. And once you see meditations as survival training, the next lesson makes perfect sense, because Marcus didn't fear pain as much as he feared the thing that quietly destroys people: comfort. Marcus had access to every luxury the Roman world could offer: palaces, servants, banquets, entertainment, rare wine, expensive clothes, personal guards, non-stop praise. Comfort was always waiting for him. In Rome, that kind of indulgence was normal. Many emperors treated it like part of the job. He treated it like a trap. In meditations, he keeps warning himself that pleasure doesn't ruin you loudly. It ruins you quietly. It makes you delay hard choices. It makes you crave easy days. It trains your mind to expect convenience, so the moment life gets rough, you feel personally attacked that it isn't gentle. He understood that warm baths feel great, and good food tastes even better. His fear was dependency. When comfort stops being a bonus and starts feeling like something you need just to function. Because once you reach that point, life can break you with one bad week. And luxury wasn't his only concern. Ego was worse. He lived surrounded by flattery, smiles, and people praising him for simply existing. He knew praise can become addictive, and once you start protecting your image, your character starts slipping. So he kept dragging himself back to reality. He was human, fragile, temporary, and the world moves on fast. But if there's one subject Marcus Aurelius returns to with almost relentless focus in meditations, it's death. This was not a dramatic obsession, nor a dark fascination. Marcus writes about death the way a soldier checks his armor, regularly, calmly, seriously, because in his world, pretending you have unlimited time was a luxury nobody could afford. He lived through war on the frontier, political tension in Rome, and a deadly plague moving through the empire. He saw how quickly strong men disappeared. He saw how easily plans collapsed. He watched life end without warning, without fairness, without explanation. And instead of treating that reality as a reason to panic, he treated it as a reason to stay clear-headed. In meditations, he reminds himself that death is natural. It is part of the same order that brings seasons, growth, decay, and change. He tells himself to stop acting surprised by it, stop fearing it, stop bargaining with it. A human being's job is to live well while they're here, then leave when the time comes. That perspective does something powerful. It shrinks the size of daily stress. It strips away the illusion that every embarrassment is permanent, that every mistake is a life sentence, that every moment has to be perfect. Marcus looks at fame, wealth, and status and sees how quickly they disappear. Names fade, memories fade, even empires shift. When you remember that, the pressure to impress people starts to lose its grip. He also uses death as a filter for priorities. If time is limited, then the real question becomes simple. Are you spending your life acting like the person you respect? Are you doing your duty? Are you treating people decently? Are you staying honest? Because those are the things that remain yours until the end. And Marcus wanted to reach that end with dignity. He didn't want his final years to be wasted on anxiety, ego, or pointless anger. He wanted to leave this world knowing he kept his character intact, even when power, comfort, and chaos gave him 1,000 excuses to abandon it. That's why death appears again and again in his private journal. He was trying to free himself. Because when you accept the ending, you stop living like a prisoner of small things and start living like someone who understands what matters. Pretty interesting, right? Marcus Aurelius had unlimited power, and he still had to fight his own mind every single day. So if even an emperor couldn't escape that struggle, what does that say about the battle you're dealing with right now? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.